time to restore our broken relationship with nature for the benefit of species and people alike. A message from Carter Roberts of the World Wildlife Forum President. An important message to us in this month of creation. And our New Testament reading this morning talks to us about the tongue and about teachers. Verse 3 says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. Now you know if you've had children and from your childhood, when your teachers told you something, you went home, and no matter what your mother or father said, teacher said so, and so it was. There was no changing their mindset, because that is what they were taught at school. And so you had to form and follow them as to what they said. And yet, we forget sometimes in our different roles, whether it be at work, at home, you are indirectly teaching someone and become a teacher, and they follow you in what you say and what you do. And so it's for us to be aware, to be updated on what is taking place around us, because what we share with others, for them that is truth, and they believe it because of the person that you are in their life. And so that teaching skill that you weren't aware of is indirectly influencing another and their habits, your actions and your words that come out of our mouths have an impact on those around us and an impact on our creation. Because how do we feel about what God has given to us as a gift? Now, if we go back to the beginning, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 tells us, "Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it," in verse 15. So we see our duty here on this earth to work the land and to take care of it. And somehow we've forgotten this. When I think of this verse, it reminds me of a mother being pregnant with a baby, carrying that baby for 9 months and giving birth to that child. And as you see that child grow, mother and father identify things that come from the mother and those that come from the father. And they see who you represent. And again, our verse 7, "He formed man from the dust, the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living being." Each one of those babes he's created, formed us. Reminder, when we look at the ground, at the sand, and see a dust storm or wind, it should be a reminder of where we come from, Mother Earth, that we should identify with it, that as Christ had birthed a new being, so he had birthed this earth. Every single thing that we see, that we smell, that we taste, comes from God. And so often we take it for granted and don't realize the effort it takes for that to be in front of you, for you to go into a supermarket and to pay for what is there on the shelf. We like to sing the song about Jesus, mold me and make me. And when we think of that clay jar that consists of mud and water, we are seeking the Lord to shape our lives, and He shapes it. And in that simple clay pot is perfection, as the potter designs it. So God put effort and thought into His creation, that there would be a relationship between the two. And on this Sunday, our theme being ecology, and that relationship between the ecosystem and our creation, our creatures. And He brought all into being, that we would coexist. When I think of that pot, there is a reminder once again of that dust, that earth, that is used to create a form of beauty from nothingness. A reminder of how we treasure and look at something in our home. And that is how we need to look at it when we look at the Lord's creation. What has He given us for our nourishment? My year in Grahamstown taught me to appreciate what we've been given. It was a year that was challenging. Why? Because for most of that year we had no water. We had to come back home for about 3 months because of the water situation in Grahamstown. And chatting to someone there, they shared how Cecil John Rhodes loved oak trees. And so he planted them all over Grahamstown. And if you know an oak tree, it takes up a lot of water. And everywhere you go, there's an oak tree. And you sit and think, something you love could be part of the problem that exists in a town where there's no water, between the natural environment and us humans. We're now fighting for survival, where you open a tap and there is no water. Every second day you're walking to the Pick n Pay or the Spar to buy water, so that you've got drinking water, water to brush your teeth, drinking water. That when you come home and you see people just letting the water run, it makes you angry, because you know of people that's a luxury. God had given us that water, and somehow we've caused that land to dry up. That dam is empty. What have we done to cause this harm to another? Where we have that running water. Right here, Chatsworth has had a few issues where they've had no water because of pipes. And for days they've had no running water, and have had to seek from family, from neighbors outside of their community, so that they can have that water. And how many of us carry that bottled water to work, to gym, keep it in the car, because when you're thirsty, you look for that glass of water. And we don't realize how precious water has become, because in our country, there are many areas that are suffering with droughts, and praying for rain, praying that the water would come. And we have organizations that come around, like Gift of the Givers, that are trying to assist in creating and making a way that there's water. And last year, our eyes were open wide when we now had to be taught, again going through teaching that we need water to wash our hands in order for us to be safe from this COVID-19. Once again, a reminder of those areas where that is something that they've got to think about on a daily basis. Where do I draw water from? When we look at some of our villages that have been built, they build it along our rivers. And when you walk along the rivers, we see all the waste, the dirt. And we just comment about the filth. But we don't go out and teach someone about my ugliness by throwing my paper out is causing harm to the environment, to my health, to something that some of us take for granted because it's readily available. But when you go to a town where you're competing with the animals for water, it becomes very real. A town where you learn to walk around because it's just so big. There's no need to use a car. Reminder to walk sometimes and appreciate God's gift to us instead of getting in a car because it's quicker. By walking, I'm saving the environment. Those few minutes allow me to come into contact with another and to make conversation. Because in today's world, we're so consumed with technology, how it can improve things, that we miss out on the greater things of life. A normal conversation, when we spend so much time on a cell phone, sending a WhatsApp message, and different activities that we do in our lives, cause us to see the world in a different light. And so, when you go into places like towns like Grahamstown, be aware of their situation and other places like them. We lived it for a year, and a year that we'll never forget, because it taught us many lessons. That to be sent home because there's no water, it's not healthy, it's not good, especially for females. You need water on a daily basis. Proverbs 12 verse 10 says, "Whoever is righteous has regard for the life of his beast, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel." Here a reminder of how for us to take care of the animals that God gave to us, and yet there's still cruelty in the world where we have no appreciation for what the Lord has given us. In America, if you knock an animal and you leave it on the street, you get fined. In South Africa, we just keep knocking the animal. No sense of stopping and taking it off the road and putting it on the side. Putting it out of its misery. But we just see it as it's in the way and we continue driving. No respect for what the Lord has given us that is precious in our lives. On the beachfront, you'll see ladies feeding stray cats. And there's some that complain that they're feeding and that's why the cats are staying around. But they've taken action to take care of the Lord's creation, to make sure they are fed. And so they religiously come day after day to feed those cats out of their own funds